Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the iRacing Today radio show for May the 22nd, 2014. My name is Trevor Cameron. I am your host, as usual and always. And up here in the booth, I have Mr. Chad Dalton. How are you doing today, Mr. Chad?
I've been doing great. I've been waiting for so long to clear my throat.
So you waited until it was actually you were live to make sure you cleared your throat.
Well, I had the urge to do it after we went live, and I had to wait because I didn't want to interrupt the song, then I didn't want to interrupt you. I was being respectful.
I see. You know you have a mute button in the Google Hangout to mute yourself.
Yeah,
so
but yeah.
You panicked. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yep.
Is you panicked. You know, you had a situation. You could have handled it several different ways, and you panicked.
Yep, and I chose the wrong one.
I kind of had a panic as well because all of a sudden the volume went really weird in my earphones, but everything seems to be recording, so I guess we're okay. But I'm not sure why that happened. But it confused me.
Okay.
I was startled. I may have cried. I'm not sure. Probably not though.
You looked like you did.
Well, I'm an emotional guy. I heart on the sleeve and all that stuff, man. Actually, I was going to open the show with singing "Back Home in Indiana" because of the theme of this week's show, and then I chickened out at the last moment. I decided I didn't want to do that. And it's funny because I had no problem doing it if we were just recording it the old way on audio, but somehow having people watch me sing "Back Home in Indiana" because I did get the old Jim Neighbors face going, and that frightened me off the whole situation. So we're gonna get through this.
Okay.
And we're going to get through this because it is Indianapolis 500 weekend actually, and anybody this is kind of the if a date can be a mecca, even though Mecca is usually like a city or a place, then this Sunday is the Mecca of auto racing, and I am rather looking forward to it. And we're going to get into a little bit of those details because we're going to be talking a little. Well, I was going to say a little. I was going to say a lot. We're going to be talking a little lot about the iRacing.com Indy 500 version. But in order to get to that point, we're going to get through our news segment with all the latest news and views. News, views, and gazoos of the iRacing world. We're going to talk a lot about the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500, which is happening this weekend in two different flavors, i.e. happening twice. Is it just the twice? Seems to be it's just the two times. Talk about our latest iRacing experiences, which may or may not involve Indianapolis. We talk about our track of the week, which ironically is not Indianapolis.
I know.
It's Sebring International Raceway. Stupid road course week. Talk about our car of the week, the Spec Racer Ford, and we'll be talking a little bit
also not
to
Indy.
our rookies. Yeah, also, well, I guess you could drive it at Indy if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I have driven that car at the Indy road course, come to think of it. But anyway, and rookie tip of the week for those who are thinking about participating in the iRacing.com Indianapolis 500 this weekend. So, thank you for tuning in. I hope we add some joy to your lives, or, at least entertain you for an hour or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll move on to our In the News segment. Dun, 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 dun. That could be.
Was that the A team?
I don't know. I started with I think the A team, and then I thought that's not royalty free, and it's like well, I probably should be doing that. So
well, the A team.
In the News segment. Dun, 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 dun.
Love it when a plan comes together.
And our news is obviously presented by iRacerstuff.com. iRacerstuff.com is a website dedicated to the iRacing.com motorsports simulation. They post things that they find interesting or that may be useful to the iRacing community. Check them out today.
Nice job. I'm impressed.
See, I'm getting better at that, isn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of iRacing, as we occasionally do on this show,
Nah.
iRacing is always working to make their game even better, including... Oh, wow, that triggered... I went down a weird rabbit hole today, and the DW12, which is the new Indy car, has some slight glitches to it, and some of the physics has some issues. I mean, they released it early in order to accommodate the Indy 500, but I watched a bunch of videos today of that thing crashing. It's like the IndyCar, the way it is right now, and they'll fix it. It kind of breaks the laws of space and time, and I saw one crash for 4 minutes straight, just spinning and spinning and spinning and flipping. So the line that iRacing is always making their game even better made me laugh, because it's like they are. It's like sometimes they don't get it all completely and totally right.
Yeah, well, it's fun to spin and spin and spin and spin and spin for 4 minutes.
Oh, it is, man. Like, I mean, I was watching these videos, and that actually went down another rabbit hole where I went and watched some older videos, because as everybody who's been around iRacing for a while knows, they have improved drastically over where we started off, and there used to be a lot of physics glitches in the game, and so I went and watched some old videos of some of the crashes where there were, let's call them landmines in the middle of tracks, where, you know, the cars would drive, and then all of a sudden they just explode and pop up into the air. And I was watching some of those, and man, did I laugh! Oh, it was funny.
I'm good. I'm glad you had a good laugh.
I did. I mean, and I'm good with that. But iRacing is always working to make their game even better, and they recently released a slew of new features, cars, and tracks. For a limited time, new memberships are half-priced. That probably wasn't as evil as that it sounded, but this expires May the 31st, 2014, that is this year. New accounts only, cannot be combined with any other offers. iRacing.com/membership for more information. Go there, do it now.
Nice. Now, one of the other things.
Red in the hangout. Wow, I thought I was making demonic voices. Apparently, I was just channeling you. I don't know what you got going on in there. Have you got a fire going, or?
Right now, being blinded by this lovely light.
Blinded by the light.
I should have never have spoken any words. I should have just read the script. But don't forget that while you're doing the whole checking out iRacing thing and downloading iRacing thing, you can also check out our lovely website, made by me, of course.
It's not me. I'm just on-air talent. I have no technical skills whatsoever.
Yeah. Now, while you're on that website, until May the 31st, you can vote in our latest poll question, which is, have you ever protested... Okay. Which is, have you ever protested someone on the iRacing.com service? So we've already had a pretty good turnout in that poll, and we expect more of you to get over there and take care of, you know, we've never ever stopped bugging you people to go over there and do this one little thing for us.
You had one job.
I mean, come on, just do it. So anyways, but there's all kinds of things on there, like our favorite links, and you can get to know about me and Trevor, and you can check out archives of the show, and there's all kinds of great stuff. So go to our website, which is iRacingTodayRadio.com.
Not iRacingTodayRadioShow.com.
No.
Because that doesn't go anywhere, as far as I know. And that
Hopefully.
sounded like far too long of a URL when we created this. So
Yeah. Now. I think there's. I think there's now. I think there's some kind of a race this weekend, isn't there?
Yes, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and it's weird because this is, I mean, typically both Chad and myself are stock car racers when it comes to sim racing. We obviously dabble in a bunch of other stuff, but typically that's where we spend most of our time. And for some reason, and I don't know if it's the new car, I don't know if it was the fact that we have Andy on our team now, who's, you know, spent a lot of time with the IndyCar. I don't know, but for some reason, this World Tour event has captured both Chad and my attention stronger than other ones have in the recent past, where we have dedicated a lot of time, a lot of I don't know. It's really got us going. This whole, you know, the fact the Indianapolis, or the Indy 500 iRacing.com version is happening this weekend, and both Chad and I are going to be participating in the Friday evening a race because, well, Saturday and middle afternoon does not work for me. I mean, I'm not sure Chad could probably do it, but I can't.
Yeah.
But so I was going to say two splits, but that's not entirely true. Two different race times. Tomorrow night, Friday night, at 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe it is.
Yep.
So, hope I got that right because I'm planning on showing up for it.
Yeah.
And Saturday at, I should have brought that up before I started.
2 o'clock.
Thank you, sir. 2 o'clock Eastern time.
I've got your back.
But the what's going to be kind of cool about it. I mean, like I said, it's neat because it has the new DW12 car has released, which we spoke about the last couple of weeks. So it's kind of got the new car vibe to it, but it's also the first big event that I'm going to be attempting to live stream out. I've done some league races and stuff, but this is the first time I'm going to be broadcasting one of these huge marquee races, with the full race distance and that sort of thing. So that's pretty exciting too. So I guess it's just kind of a combination of all that coming together that I've really got myself pumped up for. Now, I hope that as World Tour events and these big events sometimes do, end up in a big cluster on the very first turn of the first lap, and these Indy cars being as planes without wings that are supposed to be stuck to the ground that don't do that well sometimes. I could see it being even more challenging going into that first turn. But I'm going to be streaming it live from my perspective with as I've done the league races in the past. And what are you going to be doing, Chad?
Well, I'm probably going to be on a lawn chair sitting over there watching. No. I, of course, as you said, am going to do the Friday night, evening, whatever, version of the race. And as you kind of mentioned, and I'll speak a little more on this first before I tell you what I'm doing, I've always kind of been interested in certain World Tour events. Not all of them, but just certain ones. And the ones that I've done have actually been really good. Like they were good rooms, good splits, good drivers. I mean, I got wrecked in a couple of them, but it was because I wrecked myself, and I didn't take myself out. I just spun out and got behind, I guess. But in every single one that I've competed, let's go with that. I've had a lot of fun, and one of the World Tour events that I've never competed in is the Indianapolis 500, and I've never really even driven the Indy car itself, except for a couple of random fun races. So a lot of my excitement comes from doing something different, I guess. Right. Kind of like a first-time thing with this, and I think what kind of helps me in the sense is that it is a new car. And so even though I'm sure all the really smart people who know how to set these things up have already made some wicked awesome setups, for me it kind of, in a weird sense, evens the playing field a little bit more because everybody's kind of in a new car.
Right.
So, and because I'm really new to this, and I've been saying all week, and even last week that I'm claiming myself as the Kurt Busch of this because Kurt's doing something he's never done. He's racing in the real Indianapolis 500, and that's what I'm doing, And so that is a lot of my excitement. I'm a rookie, basically. Now, the other thing that is exciting is that I guess we talked about this either last week or the week before, that I was trying to figure out how to live stream with my GoPro camera instead of just recording the races like I've done on my YouTube channel and then editing them a little bit and kind of summarizing whatever race and then posting them. Mm-hmm. Well, that did not work, and I tried. And Andy helped me a little bit trying to, troubleshoot it, but we could not figure it out. I could not figure it out, and I tried everything I could. So that idea kind of went to the toilet, I guess. Um,
It went out the window.
yeah. So the new idea came. I guess it was Wednesday. Andy was originally going to be my race engineer and spotter for the race for me on Friday because of the fact that I'm new to this, and he was going to help me out and kind of keep me on my game, so to speak. Because there's a lot more to the IndyCar that we're going to get into later that I would not have known nor messed with without him. Yeah. So he was going to stream because he's wanting to get into some streaming. He was going to stream my race as if, like kind of like what Trevor is doing with his, except it wasn't going to be from me. It was going to be from Andy. And then something happened with his computer, but he's gotten that fixed now, I guess. And so then I just kind of was sitting there, and I was like, well, maybe I should just stream it because it is kind of a big deal. And I know that about a year ago or so, my computer, I was streaming some RCRL TV stuff where I was going to get into broadcasting races, and my computer handled it. I mean, I'm not going to say it handled it brilliantly, but it did well. And so, that idea went back through my head, and all this stuff went back through my head, and I asked Trevor, I was like, hey, how exactly are you doing all this? And it's like a super simple process. And so started messing with that on Wednesday, which was last night. Feels like forever ago. And
it was it's been a lot of late nights getting stuff done and whatnot.
I know. So and it seems, I did some more tests today, it seems to work well, and everything is all set up and ready to go. So I'm going to try and do another test tomorrow and get a couple of my friends to watch it live to make sure it's not choppy and things like that. But provided that everything is all good to go, I will be also live streaming my own race tomorrow, pretty much the same way that Trevor does. So
right,
that'll be cool.
Which is, and it will. I can guarantee you, people, that you will be seeing two separate races. Obviously, the live stream will be there if you guys want to actually watch it live, but it'll also record and archive on both of our YouTube pages, so you can watch it back later on. And for all I know, one race could be 5 minutes long, the other could be the entire length. We could both make it to the end. I don't know. But we're definitely going to be in two different races because we have spent some time laying down some qualifying laps. And I will say that I have a bone to pick with my co-host because everybody knows that Chad is a better driver than I am. That has been well established. However, as he's mentioned, he is a rookie when it comes to the IndyCar. Now, this is a new version of the IndyCar, but I've done some IndyCar racing, and I'm more comfortable with that. And I've even done the Indy 500 before on iRacing. So, my level of expertise, at least on this car, this track combination, should be higher than Chad. However, I go out there and I try to practice and I try to get good and whatnot, and I think we're 10 laps into our practice. We were practicing on Tuesday night. I don't know, one of the nights this week.
Wednesday.
Well, oh yeah, right. No, yeah, it was Wednesday. I thought we did some earlier, but anyway, we're 10 laps into the practice. He's already faster than me, using the exact same setup, not even using all of the tools in the car to his advantage, weight jackers and stuff like that. He just hops in the car and goes, and is instantly faster than me. We've laid down our qualifying. Last qualifying is now over for the Indy 500. It ended this evening, a couple hours ago. I managed to get in the last qualifying session. And I qualified at a time of 40.186. That is the average I did over those 4 laps. That is not a good time at all. However, that is about as fast as I could go in a qualifying setup and keep the car underneath of me. That puts me in position 407 out of 522. So I guess if you look at it that way, hey, I'm faster than 1/5 of the people who qualified. In the well, at least in the C and above, because there's also a D and rookie as well that me and Chad weren't in. So Chad, 40.186, not a great time. What'd you end up pulling off for a qualifying time?
Well, in my defense, in this bone picking that we're having, I did 3 different qualifying sessions, and the first 2 managed to crash myself in on lap 3 both times. I don't understand what it was about lap 3, but anyways, so the first two qualifying sessions did not go well, but the last one, which was also the last one that we did, like you said, you managed to get in it. I managed, well, I didn't manage to get in it. I was already going to be there. But I went into that qualifying, and I had this, like the first two qualifying sessions, I had that urge to just floor it and just, go hardcore and be very aggressive and try and get a really, really, really good lap time. And obviously ended up with 2 wrecked race cars that the boys at the shop now have to fix. But the third time I said, okay, I'm still going to try and be aggressive. I'm not just going to go slow, but I'm going to back it up just a little bit so that I make sure that I get a qualifying time on the board. And since it was the last one, I wanted to do it. And I managed to get, for my 4-lap average, a 39.845, which has me 223rd out of the 522.
Yeah, 39.845. By backing it up slightly so you could keep the car from crashing, that is over 3/10 faster than what I managed to pull off. 3/10 by the rookie boy.
How does that make you feel? I told you I'm Kurt Busch, and we all know that Kurt Busch can drive a race car.
It makes me feel horrible. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel like I have wasted the last 5 years of my life attempting to become better at this iRacing thing, trying to help the people out there become better, or at least enjoy more about this experience. I find that I'm at the bottom of the barrel now in my enjoyment of this iRacing. I'm going to give it all up now because Chad outqualified me by a metric crap ton.
Metric crap ton. Wow. Well, it looks like I get to do the radio show by myself now. Woo!
I mean, but whatever. It's all about you now, man, because I got nothing to offer. The thing that I was supposed to be better at, I was not. So I've got nothing.
I'm sorry I hurt your spirits. But
no, it should be. It'll be interesting because Chad will be about halfway up the splits kind of thing. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of splits with 33 per. So he'll be about halfway up there, and I'll be towards the back. It'd be kind of interesting to compare how the splits go, I guess, to a degree, because it'll be a matter of seeing, obviously qualifying isn't an exact science into dictating how good of a racer these people are, but you can judge people who are able to get that sort of time versus the amount of time that I got. So it'll be interesting to see how the racing is in Chad's split compared to my split as well. So hopefully we'll both make it to the end and we can kind of compare notes at the end of it and say, okay, well, here's what I saw.
Yeah. And again, like going back to the rookie thing, like I am. This is not one of those stunts where I'm saying that I'm new to this, I'm a rookie or whatever, and then I'm going to go out there and finish 8th or something, and be like, oh yeah, that was easy, Like this is a totally new experience for me. And like I mentioned earlier, I barely even really driven the Indy car, and that was only like a couple of random races like at Michigan and Kansas that were just fun, that people were like, hey, come do this, like during week 13. So this, if let's say, for example, I make it the whole 500 miles tomorrow. If you watch at any point in my stream, if it's working correctly, I am honestly going to be taking it easy. Like it may look like I'm trying to be aggressive, but I am going to be taking it easy because I am going into a whole new ballpark to play a game. So it's going to be very interesting. That's like the only word I can think of.
Yeah, and that's it does have me really excited to try because it's Indy's one of those tracks where in Indy with the IndyCar is one of those tracks where it's not easy per se, but I find it less less technically challenging maybe than doing like a Coke 600 or pardon me, some other track where you're on the brakes or you have to hit you have to get marks with the brakes and stuff going into the corners, or a Daytona or Talladega where you're in the draft and in traffic all the time. It's not hard because you're basically on the throttle the entire time. and it's a matter of just hitting your line properly through the corner and then adjusting for traffic. And that's one thing that I'm not so sure about is the fact that, I mean, I know from experience that the Indy car handles so much differently when it's in traffic, and the rate of closure that you're going to have when you get up on the draft to somebody, or if somebody just loses just that tiniest bit of speed coming out of the corner if they don't hit it right, like that's where most of the problems are going to be in this race. I can pretty much guarantee you it's going to be on the initial start and the restarts when people get on the gas and get into turn one, because this thing you have to be conscious of the amount of power you're putting down to the wheels when you hit the gas pedal, because you can spin these things out like nobody's business if you're not careful coming out of the pits or on the restart. And it's going to be people running into each other because they're not accounting for that rate of closure that they're going to have. And you know, and it's going to either be somebody who's got the rate of closure, they're coming in on somebody and they're going to smash into them, or it's going to be the person that's getting closed in on who's going to have a minor panic attack and try to get out of the way by darting into a different line. And you know, we've talked about that in the past, where you know what a lead lap car wants out of a lap car the most is predictability. You be in the high lane, be in the low lane, be aware, you know, wherever you're going to be, but just continue to be there. And that's what they need, because that's how they're going to work their way around you. Now, with the rate of closure that you're going to have with the slower cars, the faster cars, you don't have as much time to process that information. And I can see people just making snap decisions and making them horribly, horribly wrong. So I think that's where most of the problems are going to end up being, is in those kind of areas. So that's something I'm going to be conscious of, because I'm going to be the same thing. I'm going to be, basically, I am just going to try to survive to the end, because I bet you, if I can keep that car clean until until there's, 50 laps left, 40, 50 laps left, I'm going to finish at least in the top half of that split. Like, guaranteed. So, that's my plan. I mean, and the fact that I don't want to be overly aggressive, because I don't know what level these people are going to be racing at. I don't know how, how they're going to be racing, because it's not a league situation. I'm not people that I'm racing with all the time. So I'm going to assume, that everybody. How I have not gotten in many car accidents over the years. The only time I've ever been in car accidents is when people rear-end me. Like, I've never actively caused an accident out there. And the reason, and my philosophy in life when I'm going out there driving, is that when I'm watching all the other cars out there, I always assume that at any given point in time, each one of those is about to do whatever could be the stupidest thing possible at that given moment in time. So if I'm always assuming that they're about to do something stupid, I'm ready for it. And I've been right on many occasions where it's like, okay, I'm watching that guy. You know what? I don't like the way these handling his lane and whatnot, and they'll do something stupid in front of me. But I was expecting them to do something stupid, so I avoided the accident. Same thing with this. I'm going to be assuming everybody out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to assume that all other 32 cars out there are being driven by idiots. And if I assume that, and I'm ready for them to do something dumb, then I can avoid that, because I'll be ready for it.
Good plan. Yeah, my overall goal is obviously to finish the race, and even if, I don't want to be this, but even if I'm a lap or two down, that I would count that as finishing the race, and I would like a top 15 finish. If I can get those two things out of that race tomorrow, then I will consider it a successful rookie campaign.
Yep. That's basically my, my goal as well, is top half. So, call it top 15. That seems like a fair goal. Now, one thing that's cool about these World Tour events is that fact that they have to they have the qualifying out, and that's how you end up in your various splits and whatnot. It's broken down by the qualifying time. Now, I thought it might be interesting, being a special event and all, that with 33 cars making the top split. Now, obviously, some of these people are going to race in the Friday night race. Some will race the Saturday night race. Some are racing both. And by Saturday night, I mean Saturday afternoon, unless you're in Europe, in which case it's next Thursday. I'm not sure how it works. But So the top 33 drivers have been decided because the qualifying has ended, and I thought it'd be nice just to kind of give them a quick shout out on the show here. Well, and by nice I mean it's probably good, except for we're going to mangle half their names because I'm seeing some England, some Australia, Scandinavia. So this is probably going to be bad. This is a bad idea. I shouldn't have brought it up, but I've committed to it now. So apparently, the person who will be sitting on the pole for either race or both is Yang. I'm going to go with U. What would you say on that?
I would say O, but that's
O?
just because
Yang
I
O
look at the
or
O.
Yang U? From
Yang U.
Scandinavia with a time of 39.482. And now I will just run down. So that was your pole is 39.482. So I mean you were only what 0.4 off, less than a half second off the pole. That's not bad for a rookie.
No, not bad.
So then, second, we have Brandon Trano, Joshua Chin, Chris Cahoe, Christian, the name I always
Peterson.
Mess up. I always want to call him Pedersen. It's Peterson. Martin Miller, James Swinbank. Oh, James Swinbanks. He follows me on Twitter and interacts with me. Huh? Cool. Way to go. Chad Simpson, Mitch McCracken. That's a name.
That's a cool name.
That is, I know. I mean, it's like that's all not quite as good as Will Power, but Mitch
No.
McCracken. I mean, like that's like
Will Power is probably one of the best names.
I know, isn't it? And Tim Doyle, who we're quite familiar with, he's quite prolific in the IndyCar realm. What do you think? Who's starting there, or not starting, but who's in qualified 11th there, Mr. Chad?
Ryan Norton, down from Florida. So let's see. Now starting in 12th is John Paquin, maybe? Yeah, sure. This guy is pretty popular, and I've actually raced with him a few times. 13th will be Nick Ottinger. 14th, I don't guess I have to say the number, do I?
No.
Matt Pawiski?
One thing, another with Nick Ottinger, I noticed in the top 33 qualifiers, actually the top 50, he's the only pro world champion driver in there.
Yeah.
That's qualified in the top bit.
Let's see, Brendan Lichtenberg, is going to come up there. Now, the interesting thing about him is that he ran at 39.58, so the top 15 drivers are separated by a tenth on their average lap time. So, moving right along here with another great name that I'm not going to know how to pronounce, Alaski Aloma.
Yeah, he's a very he does a lot of road racing stuff. I remember him running in the Pro Series World Championship Series a bunch.
Mm-hmm. You want to just take over? You seem to be doing such a good job.
No, I can only pronounce the names that it's not my job to pronounce. I mean, I'm on the spot, man. I panic. I'm done.
Yeah, I know. Christopher Demetti or Demeriti. Anyways, let's see. Nigel. This is entertaining, isn't it?
Nigel. How
Nigel.
How do you not be able to pronounce Nigel?
Because I was looking at the second name, trying to figure out how to say that.
Man, you think Nigel's hard? Good luck. Next one.
I know, for real. I'm not even going to pronounce the next one. But Nigel Narnif, I guess. And then the next one is... He's from Finland. Let's just go with that.
I would go Alexi Usi Jacola.
Yeah. I hope they're getting their money's worth out there, Trevor, because of your dumb idea here. Then 20th on the board is Rennie Vinderbosch.
Then next, in 21st, we have Paul Williams. There's a good name for you. James Allard, Chad Peterson, Mike Owen, Connor Cross, John Porzuk, Jordy Lopez Jr.
I know him. He races in the RCRL with me on Monday nights.
Here's another familiar name. Anybody who listen to the old podcast, Wyatt Gooden. He was one of the first sim racing to real racing success stories here in iRacing. If anybody remembers him, he raced over in the Jeddah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Jeddah series, and ended up getting a real ride out of doing some sim racing. So, so Wyatt's apparently still active on the sim and still fast. Next, we have Anthony Kernich and Andre Castro.
And then rounding out the top 33 is going to be William Levesque, I guess. Hey, there's a Canadian.
I don't know. It's pronounced Levesque.
Oh, gotcha. I'm not from Canada. And then one of my favorites is Parker Kligerman. Is 32nd. That's pretty cool. And then rounding out the top 33 is going to be Alex Simpson from the UK and I.
And now, that bubble position was 39.603. So
yeah, so that's only like just slightly over a tenth off of the pole time of a 48. So that's pretty close.
Yeah. So anyway, so I thought that might be interesting to kind of mention that, and then way down the line is Chad, and then somewhere's in the basement is myself.
Yeah. Let's go see who's last.
Well, that's unfair, is it now?
Will Vincent.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what?
It's Will okay.
Vincent. You know what? It's funny because it's the club is UK and I.
Yeah.
It's like they're buddies. And, you know, it's like, hey man, UK and I.
But look at his lap time. He has the most impressive lap time, I think, out of everybody.
Yes.
To get 522nd on the starting grid, he will be at 1:58 and 33.
Yes, that is that's not the total for the 4 laps. No, sir. That is the average over those 4 laps. That is somebody who said, you know what, I'm just going to put down a time. I mean, he's got a Class A 4.99 license, so you know he's not. I would guess. I do not know Will, but I would guess that he's not a bad driver by any means. I'm guessing that is just you know what, I haven't got this figured out. I don't have time to do all this, so you know what, I'm just going to put down a time so that I'm, you know, gridded with people who have a time and not just by iRating. So, you know, I'm getting a qualifying time down. Maybe it was the last session. Maybe it was like, oh man, I haven't even practiced. I don't know, let's just cruise around here and just, you know, now I got a time. It's good.
Yeah. So he'll be definitely starting dead last. Unless a bunch of people in his room don't have a time. So that is qualifying. Yay. And I was proud of myself for actually, you know, not crashing. That was kind of a big deal. Because the first time I crashed in turn 2, which is where I had never crashed before. So that made me angry because it was like, why? The second time I crashed, which was earlier this evening, I guess I just hit turn 1 wrong or something because I suddenly pancaked the outside wall, and that was quite fun. So I'm glad that I at least got a time on the board, and I'm even more glad that it was like way faster than Trevor.
Yeah, it's funny too because I mean it's by the end of that our practice sessions last night and the qualifying sessions, it was like I hate the short shoot between turn 1 and turn 2. That is where I struggle immensely, is that little section there. And like every time I was doing mock qual runs, I'd go into turn, you know, I'd do my outlap, turn 1, smash the short shoot wall. Every time. And I was getting so frustrated. And then today I got home just in time to get into the last qualifying session, and I had enough time to run like 3 practice laps to get warmed up before the session actually started. And on all 3 laps, smashed the short shoot wall between 1 and 2. It's like, well, this is going to be a good lap, you know, a good qualifying run. But then when, you know, it's all in the line, you know, I backed it up a little bit and managed to get to, you know, all 4 laps in without crashing, you know, slowly.
But you improved your time.
I did. I took about a tenth off my time from that I got last night, so it was better, but certainly not. And there was more there.
You would have been like over 4 tenths slower than me, so you made it a little bit better on yourself.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But I think that about Pardon me.
Nope,
That
it
about
doesn't.
gets the
It
Indy
doesn't.
500. What? But yeah, but
Nope,
there's more.
it doesn't.
Okay. Wait. What?
There's still one more thing that we got to mention that's kind of silly to mention now that we've been killing this. But
Is this now I sing back home in Indiana? Is it?
no, please don't. Well, moving right along with the news section, in the news segment, that's what I was looking for, not section. Because that is what we were in and spent like the last 30 minutes discussing with the Indianapolis 500. But we do have some team news for our little lovely team that we have here that Trevor has rounded up. And so basically we've had a bit of a Twitter/website update where, you know, I went, because I'm the guy that does the Twitter, although since Andy's not here, this is our weekly call Andy out part of the show.
I thought we already did, because we mentioned his crashing computers, so...
Yeah, but I was just kind of telling a story. This is actually calling him out. I'm probably going to give him the Twitter tomorrow night, so that while he's, you know, spotting for me and being a race engineer, he can live tweet how Trevor and I are doing. You know, seems like a good idea, right?
I agree.
Okay, cool. So anyways, but those things got a bit of a facelift, and right now the website, I'm trying to come up with some way to make it nice. So right now it just goes to our Twitter page. But yeah, so if you haven't followed us on Twitter, the team, or me and Trevor, but it's the team, then get to it. Which
I'm actually just looking at the page right now.
Yeah, which is the Twitter name is, or the Twitter handle is at iRT Motorsports. So kind of a cool page, and been tweeting a lot more this week after like 3 months off. So a lot of that has to do with the Indy 500 because our team has kind of been buzzing about this. So hopefully there'll be some good things to tweet about tomorrow's race.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be interesting. Andy's kind of pulling he's race engineering you, going to handle the... Have you told him he's handling the Twitter account, or is this just something you came up with right now?
No, I just came up with this right now.
Awesome. So, Andy, you're now our PR person.
Yeah, and you have to put at the end of every tweet -PR. Poor Andy.
So, yeah, I'll be handling that and race engineering for you, and I guess there's no real race engineering for me because, you know, I got nothing, but, you know, I guess
you could hire Lewis.
I could, but he's not...
You probably have to buy the car for him. Well, but all he needs to do is look at his notes, and then he can just tell you. Make himself sound like an expert.
Oh, I see. Excellent. So we'll do that.
Yeah. Get on that right
now. So, finishing... And by the way, I didn't say we were finished with the news. I was trying to transition away from the...
I know you were saying we were done with the Indy 500. I know.
And we're not really done with that because we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. And speaking of things that are completely and totally that are in the news and not related to the Indy 500 whatsoever, iRacing released a small update on Monday with a couple of bug fixes. But most importantly, the DW12, which is, of course, the new Indy car. Which, if you didn't know, the DW12 chassis was actually named in honor of Dan Weldon, who unfortunately lost his life. He way back when in Las Vegas there a couple of years ago, he was instrumental in helping them design this new chassis and all the safety features in it, so it was named after Dan in honor of all the contributions he made to the safety in this chassis. So, the DW12, you can now pick up today, or, well, Monday you could have picked it up, for only $11.95 without any discounts, which most people in iRacing have some form of discount on the go. The important thing to note here is that this is only the Speedway version of the car. They've released it specifically to allow it to be raced in the Indy 500. There's no road course variants on this. There's some differences that are going to be with the car in order to allow it to be a road race car or short track. Well, not short track, but, you know, Indy version of short track type thing. So this is just basically, here's the car you can race at the Indy. You could race at other places, but it's not really geared for that. The rest of the car... What's that?
I said have fun if you take it to other tracks.
Actually, I've read some forum posts, people actually doing just that and having some fun racing it and saying, man, this handles like crap here, but hey, it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So the remainder of the car, or basically the finished version of the car, will be released in the Season 3 build. And then obviously they'll probably have a complete series, which will be, for the IndyCar will be the DW12. I kind of hope, not hope. I would like to see them, and I know they tried this before, and I don't think it was very successful, but that was a while ago. But I would love to see a series where they took the IndyCar and raced it like they do the real IndyCar, and it was a split between the road and the oval, where the oval 1 week, road the next. That's a series I would try, because as much as this car is more complicated than a stock car by a long shot. I've had to remap so many buttons on my Wii in order to make it work with display thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's funny how I was saying to Andy as he was explaining all this that it actually got me excited for the car. It didn't make me scared. It made me, kind of curious to learn all these little nuances, because there's so much to this car. And the fact that they have, they're implementing the push to pass, which is something they didn't have on the old IndyCar, which is something in the new, and the old chassis did have, but it was never implemented in iRacing. It's going to be in there now for road courses. That's what it's for. But and the weight jacker, all the in-car adjustments that you can make, and all the various things. It's just cool and complicated. So, but also quite frightening. But it makes me want to learn more about it. Yeah. But anyway, if you're going to race in the Indianapolis 500 this season, and by that I mean tomorrow or Saturday, then you're going to need this car, obviously. Although I think a lot of people are actually doing some hosted versions of the Indy 500 using the old IndyCar for those who don't have the new one or don't wish to participate in the new car and want to race the old one. I've seen a bunch of people putting up hosted sessions and promoting their own version of the Indy 500. So that's kind of cool too, in case people don't have the new one. They can still participate. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I think that brings us to the end of the news, unless Chad wants to correct me once again. I'll take your silence as...
you're doing it wrong, Trevor.
Man, all these years, after over a year of doing this one, and you still don't know what you're doing. Anyway.
So I think we should stop talking about Indy or Indianapolis and move to Sebring.
Yes, our track of the week, which is Sebring International Raceway, which I had to double check and triple check with Chad, because he said, well, here's, it's next on the list. It's the one we're going to talk about this week. And I said, are you sure we haven't done this before? Because I swear that track has come up more than any other road course on the service in all of the various 54 weeks we've been doing this show.
Yep.
But we've never actually had it as a track of the week, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and like he said, we've talked about it before, but not officially, so now we're doing it officially. This track, of course, the international circuit, or course, whatever, has 17 turns, which is a lot of turns to keep up with. The modified course is way shorter, only has 9, and the club course has 11, which is kind of a neat course. Now, the interesting thing is the international course is kind of the main course that they go to here at Sebring. It is 3.7 miles in length, and the modified course, which every time I read this, makes me think of like the SK or the Tour modified, but is 1.97 miles, and then of course the club is 1.75 miles. Now, the neat thing about Sebring International Speedway is that it's laid out on runways of World War II Air Base and the adjacent railroad. Wow, I about said railroads. Roadways. But Sebring International Raceway is the oldest permanent road racing circuit in the United States. And it hosted its first race on New Year's Eve in 1950, a 6-hour handicap event won by...
Won by...
Just go read it for yourself.
Well, okay. Well, which paragraph are we in here? Let's see. First, a 6-hour handicap event won by a diminutive Crosley Hotshot two-seat roadster. Diminutive means small, like me.
Good. Thank you for that explanation. But I've always found that kind of interesting at Sebring because when you drive around the track, you know, you're basically driving on an airport sort of runway.
Yeah, and that's the part that that makes it the most challenging, especially and I know we've mentioned this in the past, especially the night version when you're racing this at night, because going into turn one, like you have that long straight stretch you're going down, and you're cruising down there, and everything's great, and then all of a sudden it turns, but the track kind of keeps going. So because it's on that part of that runway structure, and so you could just kind of keep going, but you have to turn, and there's like, I don't know, like a half dozen cones there that say you should be turning left now, but
Yep.
It's I've gotten lost in turn one so many times, especially on the night one, because I mean you're going down and it's pretty dark.
Yeah, it is. Very dark.
But I mean that's the thing about this track is that there's so many, for obvious reasons, there's so many wide open areas in here where you go and you need to turn, but you don't have to. It's like, it's like turn if you wanna. If not,
Yeah.
it's cool.
But like the original layout of Sebring, which for the record was one of the longest in North America at more than 5 miles around, but today it's, as we mentioned, 3.7. At least the biggest one is. But like the original layout, the current one is a mix of smooth asphalt paved roadway and car-bursting, tooth-rattling concrete slab runways, which goes back to the airport thing. So, yeah. I've always kind of enjoyed this track, though. I did a McLaren race, I believe it was, which is one of my favorite road course cars here, and that was, as I'm losing my voice, that was one of the more fun races that I did in the McLaren car was here at Sebring, just because of the 17 turns and the layout and the switching between the different types of pavement and the runway and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of the tracks that I think I enjoy it because of its wide open nature. I mean, we've talked in the past about how some of the courses, I mean, there are some twisty parts where the grass is, pretty close on either side, but there are so many wide open areas. We've talked in the past where that's one of the things that scares us off with, some of the road courses, the fact that there's little to no room for error. There's no margin of error out there. And this one, you can mess up pretty big on some of these corners and still be perfectly fine. And that kind of suits my style of road racing really well.
Yeah.
I know one of the, and I don't know why, but for some reason, the turn 3, 4, 5, and then into 6, the big bend, as it's called, is, I don't know, I've always enjoyed that, and especially at night. It's just the way that it looks as you're coming through that little, like it's a left-hand turn, then a little kink to the right, and then a pretty sharp left-hand, and then you just kind of go around this big sweeping turn. I don't know, for some reason that looks really cool, and that's what has always stuck out in my mind, other than that turn 1 sailing off into the ether. But when I'm actually doing well, like hitting that bang, bang, bang bunch of corners there, really feels satisfying to get that right and get the speed, because you need, if you don't hit those corners right, like it's a pretty big stretch as you head towards a hairpin that you get a lot of speed. So hitting that right kind of sails into a good lap time. Not that I've had great lap times there, obviously, but I don't know. It's just that setup, and then knowing that you're carrying all that speed through really feels great. So, I mean, I've had a lot of fun on this track a few times. It's one of the, I mean, despite having 17 turns, it is one of the least scary courses for me for some reason, which doesn't make sense.
Well, hey, whatever works.
So, anyway, so that is Sebring, unless you have anything else to bring up from Sebring, Florida. And it's funny, too. For the longest time, I didn't realize this was in the States. it was in Florida. For some reason, just the way it was laid out, the look of it, when you're on the track and just the general layout, I always thought this was in England. Like without looking at it or researching into it, for the longest time I thought it was in England. Just the way that the terrain around it looked and the course layout, that's what I always thought. I don't know why.
So. Yeah, actually, I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of sort of the same way. When I first found out about this track, I don't remember when it was, but I just remember thinking, oh, well, that's not in the United States. That's somewhere else. And then when I learned that it was in Florida, of all places, like not just somewhere else in the United States, it's in Florida, I was like, okay, was not expecting that.
No, I guess if if you spend time looking, there are palm trees around, so that may have been a clue.
May have.
Not as many as like Homestead, but still.
Yeah. But anyways, so now, keeping the theme of road going for at least the last 10 minutes of the show, we are going to move into the car of the week, and that is, of course, a road course car, and we're doing something that I wonder how popular this car is, to be honest, because it seems like everybody that I always talk to hates it. But that is the SCCA Spec Racer Ford machine, and that, of course, is from SCCA Enterprises, the constructor of this car. And it has a two-frame chassis, and it's kind of like a weird-looking car. If you don't know what we are talking about, you can look it up there on the iRacing members website. It's definitely an interesting car, and the only couple of times that I've driven it, its top speed is 135 miles an hour, but still, yet, the few times that I drove it, but I was brand new to iRacing, so that it may be different now if I went and tried it. It did not seem like the car could only go 135 miles an hour because it seemed like the most out-of-control, fast, speedy car I'd ever driven, and I could not control it. So that kind of scared me away from it at the time because I did not have enough talent to hang on to something that was so out of control. That could be different now, but I don't know. But it is a 5-speed transmission, and it is... I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest, because I've only driven it a couple times and it was so long ago.
Yeah, and it is one of those... it is a car that I have outspokenly mentioned how much I hate. I do not like this car. Same with you. I haven't driven it for forever, and maybe it is a better car than it used to be. But I remember, the only thing I remember with this car is I could not control it for the life of me. It was, I don't know, like no matter what I did, this car was slippery. This car was not. It was. I don't know. It was uncontrollable. It was not fun. It was a horrible, horrible car. It was a car I did try to drive. Actually, if you look back in the old iRacing Today podcast, I did a segment similar to this on those, and I did talk about it in episode 8, and I named that episode Not on Speaking Terms, and I was referring directly to the SRF because I did not want to talk to it. I tried to race it. I tried to learn it. I tried to become a better road racer, especially considering it's one of the ones that's lower down in the tiers. So you kind of expect it to be a good transitional car from a rookie moving up through the ranks. But no, for the love of it, I hate the car. Hate it, hate it, hate it. Now, maybe it's gotten better. Maybe I should give it another shot. I don't know.
Pretty sure it has the new tire model, the latest one.
So, you know what? Maybe I'll go and give it another shot. But I've never had good experiences with that car. I've tried to race it in a few different situations and to no good effect whatsoever.
It's been so long since I've tried it that I'm not... I just remember being out of control, like I said, but that's kind of the kind of car that I enjoy driving. So I feel like now that I've gotten more acquainted with iRacing compared to what I was back then, that I might be able to drive it. So maybe one day soon here I'll go pick it up and play around with it and see if it's anything that I can mess with. And who knows, maybe I'll fall in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's changed, but like I said, I remember back then it was I felt like the tires were made of ice. It reminded me a lot of, the original tire model on the Cup car, the A-Class stock car. That was undrivable to me too. So a lot's changed.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
I
that's
used the most consecutive laps I ever ran on the Cup car on the old tire model. The Class A oval car was 6 straight laps, and now I race it every week. So, I mean, stuff can change.
true. I mean, it's a cool looking car. I'll give it that. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I like the mirrors.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say the mirrors look like little antennae popping out
Yeah,
of out of your cockpit.
exactly. It's almost like it's like a bug. It looks like a bug with the little
Yeah.
things coming out. It's kind of cool.
I mean, it kind of looks like you took a go-kart and it grew up, like,
Yeah,
go-kart in the teenage years.
it's time. Yeah, so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this car is included with your paid subscription.
Yes, it is.
So everybody has it then, as a result. And, if you're out there in listener land, hopefully you are, and you have messed with this car either at some point or you drive it regularly, then send us a tweet or an email or something and let us know, what you think about it.
Tell us
Because,
why we shouldn't hate it anymore.
yeah, because we don't have very many experiences in it, and it definitely is included. I double checked just to make sure.
Yeah. I said it was. Are you saying
I don't always believe you.
you're faster than me in every car imaginable, and now you don't even believe me when I'm fact-checking for you?
Sorry. Thanks to you. But so speaking of some racing experiences, this is our experiences time here, and Trevor's pretty much only been doing the IndyCar, but and that's a lot of what I've been doing. But one thing else that I did, and I'll kind of quickly go through this, was on Monday night. We were back in the RCRL saddle in the Pro Cup Series. Well, we raced last week at Talladega, but that was supposed to be an off week. So we were back in the points racing saddle. How about that? And we were at Charlotte, which I had mentioned that I was really looking forward to because Charlotte's one of my favorite tracks, and the new tire model seems to fit me. Seems to fit me very well. And that race went well. It was very interesting. Also, it was our longest race on the schedule, obviously because it's kind of mimicking the Coca-Cola 600, which is NASCAR's longest race. So our race was half of that, 200 laps, 300 miles, and it's the longest race that we have all season. Now, the last year we did this exact same race, and I don't remember exactly where I started, but it was around 15th-ish, and I ended up finishing in 8th. And it took me like the whole race to move up through the field. This year, I qualified 16th, which was really kind of horrible. But it's all I could get. I mean, it really was. I just didn't have anything else in me, speed-wise, for that one lap or whatever. So I started 16th and actually kind of gradually made my way up towards the front and ran between, I guess, 5th and 10th most of the evening, and had some good battles with some different drivers and had some fun. But one of the things that was interesting, and for those of you that maybe have participated in the Cup Car at Charlotte this week and have used the fixed setup, because this again is a fixed setup series, that setup could get loose on you and basically just crash you at random. It was quite fun. And I generally, and Trevor can back me up on this, I generally don't completely lose control of the Cup car. I will get loose sometimes and look like I'm going to lose it, but somehow magically save it and keep going. And technically, I did that on Monday, but I lost I lost control of the car twice. Once was coming out of turn 2, where I was completely around, and Lewis was there watching, and he can tell you, I was spinning out. And one of the things that our team has always said is that the apron is not your friend. Well, in this exact moment, the apron was my friend because the way that I spun off of the track and I was completely sideways. I mean, the right side of my car was looking down the straightaway. That's how sideways I was.
And with those 3 monitors, you can probably see that quite clearly just looking off to your
Yeah.
right. It's like, huh,
Just like,
well, there's the
huh,
racing line.
I don't think I'm supposed to be going this way. um, so, but somehow hitting the apron with the front of my car somehow straightened me out. I guess it's the way that I was trying to save it, and then hitting that all just magically got me going again. And I saved it. The caution didn't come out. I didn't even get any incident points for it. And I only lost like 3 positions, too. It was actually kind of cool. Like, if you were going to lose control of your car, that's the way you would want to do it. Now, later on in the race, I lost control of the car again, but this time in turn 4. And this one I did get an incident point for, but it was only 1 because I lost control basically the same way. It just came out from under me. I had no warning, and I don't usually lose control of the car, but these I lost control of. And managed to sort of mow the grass down the front straightaway. I spun through the grass for a little ways, and then I, again, somehow saved the car and got going straight again. Drove right back out onto the track and kept going and only lost 3 positions again. So I guess, 2 times I could have completely wiped out, could have lost so much track position, could have had so many horrible things happen, but only lost 3 positions both times and never hit a thing. So those were successful almost spin outs, I guess. Now, the fun happened on the last lap of the race because we had a caution, and I don't even know what happened because we had a pretty long green flag run, but we had a caution, and it was timed perfectly to where we had a 1-lap shootout under green to end the race, which, well, I wish I would have had video of this or something because that was one of the most interesting restarts I've ever seen because Charlotte is flat on the front straightaway, so it's very easy to spin your tires. And I think I counted 6 cars, including myself, who spun the tires on the restart. All of them were in the top 10. And some of them spun way more than others. Some of them just barely did it and then kept going. I spun my tires, but luckily I was on the outside because I think I restarted in 10th, actually. And I was close enough to the wall that I spun myself into the wall and bounced off of it and then got going while one guy spun his tires and was literally just drifting the whole front straightaway. It was pretty cool.
Just now sailing down sideways.
Yep. It was pretty cool. It really was. I don't know how he saved it. Another guy spun his tires so badly that he just literally had to almost come to a stop in order to save it. And so we fanned out, and everybody was everywhere trying to avoid people. It was crazy. And somehow, in all the craziness, I went from 10th, spinning my tires, bouncing off the wall, hitting another car by accident because he was spinning his tires. And I was trying to avoid him, but couldn't. To, in that 1 lap, 1.5 miles, grabbing a 6th place finish out of it because of all the craziness. So that was one of the more interesting last laps that I've ever been a part of. But it was also cool because I actually gained positions because usually in a restart like that, I lose positions because it's 1 lap and I'm trying to go for it and, something happens like a wreck or I spin the tires and don't bounce off the wall and, the wall was put there perfectly for once in its life because it saved me. So that was a very cool race, but at the same time it was very tricky, and it was long, but it was also difficult. But it was a lot of fun, and it was cool to hang out with some of the guys on TeamSpeak. So I enjoyed it and got out of there with a 6th place finish. So I'm pretty happy. And now I don't know if it's this week because of Memorial Day, but I'm assuming it's the week after. But we go to Dover, which I love. So I'm looking forward to that.
Right, and see that's what I was confused on when I said Wednesday versus another night this week, because I came on and ran some laps on Monday night in the
Oh yeah.
IndyCar as well, and so that's where I was getting confused. And it's cool too because that was Lewis was finally back on TeamSpeak and talking with us and stuff, and member of the team, and it was cool to hang out with him and listen to you doing your race. Like I was just doing practice laps in the DW12 while you guys were finishing up that race there, so it was cool listening to. Like I wish I was watching it because the amount of excitement as all those things were happening, I could hear you reacting to them, but I had no idea what was happening. So.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. If you were going to watch one, that would have been one to watch.
But I was just checking in. Do you realize that my qualifying time in the Indy 500, if I was a D class or rookie driver, that would have qualified me 33rd. I would have been last car in the top split with my time. So that's good. I'm at least good enough to be the top tier of the rookies. So I will take solace in that fact.
Well,
you would have said, what was your time? 38.8 or 39.8? What?
8-4.
8.4. You would have been sitting ninth on the grid.
Cool.
So.
Not bad for a rookie.
Well, technically, you are. I mean, when it comes to that, so they should have let you. That's what I'm saying. But
oh, I see. You want to boot me down to the rookie class D. I see what it is.
Well, I don't want you up there. Well, this is up there racing with me. Who am I kidding? You're gonna be like 15 splits ahead of me or whatever. So.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, since we're both streaming this stuff, for those of you out there that are going to be watching this, because we know you're going to watch us, do our races, because you're not going to be doing the Indy 500 tomorrow. You're going to be doing it on Saturday. You're like, hey, tomorrow night, wife, kids, friends, everybody. If you're single, then if you don't have anybody in your life, you're going to sit there and you're going to watch our streams. And with at least on Windows 7 and Mac and some other more advanced computers in this world that we live in at the moment, you can take both YouTube streams, mine and Trevor's, and put them side by side. And then you can sit there and watch both of them side by side. And then you can choose what sound you want.
I was going to say, yeah, then you can set it up so you have in your computer, I'm sure you can have it set so that one video goes in the right ear and one video goes in the left ear, and then I think you actually just go crazy. And
probably.
That, so.
Now, I will warn you guys that Trevor is going to talk a lot more, just like general talking.
I may or may not, because I mean, as we've seen in the super speedway racing, I get into this zone where I just stop talking. Like I didn't realize that I had that effect on me. Like when I was in Darlington and doing the other races and stuff, I was talking freely and trying to entertain, but all of a sudden, like I just get this lockjaw when I'm doing super speedway racing, and I kind of have a feeling that the way these Indy cars are, there's a good chance that I'm just going to be going from okay, so this is going to be fun, and then just get the eyes just staring straight.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed, I've done a bunch of testing streams, and one of them that I did was me driving around in the Indy car, and I went back and watched it, and I was looking at, I was watching my little webcam, because I got a little webcam too, like Trevor does, and I was sitting there watching myself rather than watching what was happening on the track. And I was kind of watching my eyes, because I've never watched myself race before, and I'm sure that most of us haven't. It's kind of neat. Right. And I looked relaxed with like my body and then the way that I was sitting and my arms and everything, but my eyes were like so zoned in to the screen. It was so funny. I was like, wow, I am focused.
I am tense.
I know. But, so yeah, that is. I will not be talking much. As I mentioned earlier, Andy's supposed to be my engineer and / spotter. And you'll be able to hear for those of you that listen to my stream, you'll be able to hear him communicating with me, but it's probably just going to be him most of the time. Andy might say something like, "You need to change your weight jacker," and I may not respond, but just trust that I did it. So.
Yeah, we have to figure out the logistics of that, because I mean, we're going to be on TeamSpeak and listening to each other and whatnot. So actually, Andy might actually end up on both of our streams, although he'll only be talking directly to you, so that could get really confusing.
Well, Andy and I have already worked out a deal, and we've already got this planned out, to where he and I are going to talk via iRacing chat. But, as Trevor mentioned, all of us are going to be in TeamSpeak. So if Andy says something over TeamSpeak, even if it's just in general, it will show up on both of our streams, or, well, the sound will, because of the fact that all three of us will be in the same channel on TeamSpeak.
Right.
So.
And hopefully, hopefully Lewis will be able to join us, and hopefully we'll have a whole big family get together thing. And Larry, where are you at? Come on, come hang on TeamSpeak with us.
Yeah, at least come sit on TeamSpeak. You don't have to race. You don't have to watch the race. You can just hang out on TeamSpeak. But Trevor does need a race engineer, so one of you. Looking at you.
I've got the notes. I mean, like I said, I've got Andy's giving me some notes. I'll just have those off to the side. Maybe I'll print them off so I can have them on, not on a monitor, and be able to read those. It's like, okay, he said something about when this happened, I had to do this to that other thingy, and hopefully I remember what button I mapped that to.
So yes.
Actually, maybe the Indy car. If I get into racing this car, maybe that's the thing that's going to send me over the edge and make me think, you know what? Maybe I do need a button box.
Yeah.
I mean, I've managed to put them all on the wheel here, but some of those things that I could probably take some of the functions that aren't as regular and just have them on a side, a button box off to the side where I could just kind of flick things over there, as opposed to things that have to be at my immediate fingertips. So I don't know. I will mention before we transition out of this segment and take us home with the rookie area that one of our regular listeners there. Scott Feldhausen has mentioned on Twitter that as he's listening to us, that he has enjoyed the snot out of the times he drove the spec Ford Racer last season. Awesome, good stuff on the new tire model. So apparently there's at least one person out there who does not have the hatred that we do for this car. So just one mention as well, Scott comes up on the show more often than, I don't know, anybody other than Chad and myself, I'm sure. But Scott actually went through the last week or last 2 weeks and has painted, he owns all of the cars and has actually gone through and painted a paint scheme for every single car in the service with some of his stuff and our logo on there somewhere as well. And that's quite the undertaking to actually create a car for, a paint scheme for every single car in the service. So that's quite the accomplishment for Scott.
And I think it was Steve Livender mentioned on a tweet that there's a lot of people who are 100% club people, who have all the content, mostly the cars, and he said, but very few have actually painted all of them customly, through like trading paints or something.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
So I just want to bring that up because that was quite an interesting.
We don't even do that.
Tweet that he'd given us on through Twitter, mentioning his progress on getting those all painted up. So, So anyway, the last thing that we will mention, of course, is with our racing experiences. As we mentioned, we're going to be live streaming them. Chad's YouTube channel is White Knight Productions, which you can find by searching White Knight Productions, going to our links. It's out there. You'll find it if you want to. Mine is Ratface Productions. Same deal. Link on our page. It's RATTFACE. I'm looking at you, Andy, who tried to promote me, spelt it wrong. I had to fire him, but then I realized I needed him, so I unfired him.
Remember, we've forgiven him until Sunday.
Right, exactly. See, that's the thing. I mean, we're users. That's what I'm saying. We love as long as it's useful to us because we're evil people. I mean,
I have to be because I'm a rookie.
Well, I mean, anybody watching the stream of the show, I mean, Chad's all bathed in red. I don't know what's going on there. So,
I'm sun tanning. I gotta look good for the cameras, man.
so, excuse me. I thought it would be a good idea this week to bring for a rookie tip of the week to finish us up here and our Indianapolis-centric show. The fact that there are a couple little things that Andy has pointed out to us, stuff that there was one thing I kind of knew how it worked and wasn't too sure, and there's one thing I didn't even know was in there. Not a clue. So I thought it might be a good idea. Anybody who's going to be going out and trying this DW12 for the Indy 500 this weekend, there's a few things that you might not know about. And those would be the weight jacker and the engine mapping. So this is where I had to come up with some new buttons to map on my wheel, because these are two settings that you're going to change throughout the race, apparently. Now, I've never raced a race with, here in this situation, but apparently this is something that you tweak as you go, and that's something else to fill my brain pan with, so that's great.
That's why I hired an engineer.
See, I mean, he's going to be the one. Okay, what's your weight jacker setting? Okay, about halfway through the fuel load, you might want to lower that down by 1 because, the weight is distributed slightly differently now. So give us a click on the weight jacker there, Chad, would you? Okay, thank you. I'm only assuming that he's going to be doing an NPR kind of voice in your, kind of one of those things where he's going to hypnotically trance you into racing well.
Yeah, and explaining it in such great detail too. I mean, instead of just saying, "Hey, drop your weight jacker 1," it's like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna take your button, you're gonna click it, you're gonna go down 1, and here's the reason why." I mean, because I could see a crew chief doing that,
Well, I mean, if you have that relationship and you're trying to get, you want the driver to understand why you're telling him to do the things. I mean,
it's like, I'm going 240 miles an hour. Quit telling me all this stuff.
Well, I mean, that could very well be true. I mean, I like to listen to the driver chat a lot when I'm doing, watching races and stuff. And, the number of times I've heard, the driver just come back and, just say, stop talking,
Yeah.
Stop giving me information. Just shut up and let me drive.
Yep.
So the weight tracker is kind of like, imagine it's kind of a wedge you can adjust on the go for our stock car racers. And what are those adjustments there, Chad? What what are they? How do they adjust it based on what they're feeling with the car?
I don't know. I was hoping you would tell me. I'm the rookie.
Oh, okay. Well, I see. You always complain that I talk too much. See, I'm trying to. I'm trying to hand it over to you, man.
This is your car, man. You're all about how this is all about you.
It's not my car because you outperformed me by a ton.
Yeah, but that's just because I know how to push the throttle down.
I pushed the throttle down. I hit that stupid wall between turn 1 and turn 2. Boom, cruise right through there. It's like, oh, well, that was easy. It's like, okay, I can do that. Smash.
Well, but see, I thought that I could do that, but then I got into qualifying when it mattered and went right into the fence. But in all honesty, I do want you to read this rookie tip because I'm a rookie.
Bring up the email.
Yeah.
So
that too.
Basically, if you need more rear grip, you start at a neutral position in the weight jack with it at 0 when you first load up your car. Then you can then go down to -20 or up to +20. Kind of like similar to a wedge. The way it works is if you need more rear grip, i.e. putting it in stock car terms, if you are getting loose and the rear end is trying to step out on you, then you put in a negative number. You put in less weight jacker. And that's kind of opposite to what you would think a wedge, because in a wedge, to loosen the car up, you put in a negative number into the wedge, and that'll tighten the car up. IndyCar, you have to flip it backwards. If you need more rear grip, you put in a lower number. If you need more front grip, i.e. you're tight and the front of the car doesn't seem to be getting you through the corner properly, then you put on a positive number on that weight jacker. That will help that will help to tighten the car up in order to get you through the corner if the front end is what's not gripping into it. So that's something that you will probably take your setup and you'll find your kind of baseline number, where here's where I feel comfortable getting through the corners. And then Indy cars change a lot when it comes to their handling as the fuel burns off. So you will probably find that as you go through the run, that you're going to have to put in some more rear grip because that's where the fuel tank is in the Indy car. So you're going to have less weight on the rear. So you're probably going to want to go to a slightly more negative number throughout the run in order to kind of compensate for that weight shift. And you can feel it. I mean, like it's not. That's one of the things that is modeled quite well because I've seen it and felt it. So that's something you're going to want to have happen. So something to keep in mind. And then the other thing too is when you go in for your pit stop, you're going to want to go back to that baseline number because if you don't, you're going to be expecting the car to handle one way, and it's going to be handling differently because you put the fuel back in, and the tires aren't as worn, and that can cause problems as well. So keep that in mind. When you look at your display on the Indy car, it's right on the wheel itself. There's a number in the LED display. This is WJ, and it'll have a number there, 0, minus whatever, plus whatever.
It's on the far right of the steering wheel.
Yes, that is your weight jacker number. And also, don't worry if you have the wheels shut off in your graphic displays. I do as well because I don't. A, I did it for performance, and B, it was blocking the dials on the stock cars. And it's also kind of distracting, although I wouldn't mind having it on. But anyway, I don't have it on, but they kind of put a static, does not move version of the wheel sitting there because there's important information on the steering wheel in an Indy car and several other open wheel road courses or road cars as well. Lost Mr. Chad. He is back, I think. Almost back. Hey, there's Mr. Chad.
Yay.
You disappeared for a second, but that's okay.
Yeah, that was weird.
So anyway, so that'll be there. Now, here's the thing. I knew about that. I wasn't entirely sure how it all worked. But the other thing that I didn't even know was a thing, and this would have got me into trouble if I had not realized that I had to adjust this for race, and that is the engine mapping setting. And that is basically setting how much power you're giving to the engine and how fast you can go, how much fuel you're burning, that sort of thing. And it defaults to position 1, which is full power. Now, my IndyCar experts, i.e. Andy, tell me that the only reason why you're ever going to want that to be in position 1, full power, is if you're in qualifying. Other than that, you want to back that off a little bit. As you go higher in the settings from 1 to 8, that's less power, less fuel being burned off, and it's way easier to control that car as well. I noticed. That's something I didn't even think of, and that's one thing I ran into trouble with. I was initially starting to run this car. It was always in position 1. Didn't realize that was even a thing.
Yeah.
And I was having trouble controlling the car, and then once I backed it off to 3 or 4, that car became way easier to control. And that's something that you're going to want to adjust because in the race you're going to have it somewhere middle-ish, 3 or 4, judgment call, I guess. But if you're going on a fuel run, for example, like in the stock cars, if we're trying to save fuel, we kind of back off the throttle, we let it drift through the corner a little bit more. We don't go full throttle. If we don't have to down the straights, we kind of back off our lap times. Here, you can actually set it to a different setting and use less fuel. You'll be slower, but it's not a matter of you adjusting the way that you're driving as much as you're adjusting how much fuel is available to the engine. So you might put it in setting 5 for fuel saving. If you say, you know what, I can almost make it to the end of the race. I don't want to pit, so I'm going to go into fuel saving mode. So you back it off to a setting of 5. And then setting 8, which is the leanest, so to speak, you're going to want to go into that setting when you're under caution because you're going to want to use the least amount of fuel possible because you're not racing. You're just cruising around at pit road speed or caution speed. So you're going to want to do that. Now that's something you're going to have to keep in mind because I can imagine, I've not tried this out yet, but if you put it to setting 8 under caution, and then all of a sudden you're about to hit the restart, and you try to gun it, and you're about in the middle of the pack, and you're still on 8, I can imagine bad things would probably happen really quickly.
Yep.
I haven't tested that, but that's my guess.
Yeah, probably.
One thing that with that setting as well, and something that Andy thankfully pointed out to us was the fact that with the default field of view, the dial that actually shows you what position you're in for that engine mapping, you can't see it. It's a little dial at the bottom of your steering wheel, and it's a little dial that goes from 1 to 8. Now you don't see that in your default field of view. Now there's a couple of ways around that, and that is one, it is actually, as Chad found out, it's on your black box, F8, I think you said it was.
Yep, F8.
So, which I think
bottom.
is your last one over. Yeah, if I don't have specific buttons, I just have a go forward back on my wheel. So I think it's the last one over. That actually has your weight jacker number on it and your engine mapping and a few other things, and a cat apparently that's probably being picked up by the microphone right now.
So I was wondering what that was. That was your little daughter screaming or something.
No, that is the children have gone to bed. Where are my treats? Meow, meow, meow is what that is.
And it's the second to last one. If you do the thing, because you have like what I had, where you click through your black boxes instead of just hitting F6,
Right.
and you go 2 to the left, so backwards in a sense on your black boxes, and that'll get you to F8.
Okay. So you can see it there, and that's one way to get around that limitation where you can't see it on the wheel with your default field of view. You could move your field of view back so you're sitting technically farther back in the car in your seat, and that'll allow you to see it as well. But I would imagine that if you're used to driving and with your field of view in one position, be it a good one or a bad one, I know people have done calculations where it's best to sit and stuff. I've just left it at default. If you're used to one setting and you change it just for now, I can imagine that would lead you to a big world of hurt, because all of a sudden your car is not going to be where you think it is. And the important thing about racing cars is knowing where all 4 corners of your car are at any given point in time. And all of a sudden you change your perspective, you're probably going to hit things. That's my guess.
And if you are one of those people like me who did the calculation thing with the iRacing calculator and measured out everything like you're supposed to do, for the record.
I've been doing it for 5 years. I don't want to change now. Get off my lawn.
But like you're supposed to do, don't change your field of view because of this, because it not only will do what Trevor just said, but it where it'll throw you all off and everything like that, but you will be in the incorrect field of view, like Trevor is. But still, so you will either want to assign the new thing that we got in the last build, which is what I've actually done. I didn't do it because of the IndyCar, but I did it just to do it. But now it's come in handy with the IndyCar. Is that new look up, look down feature where you can set up 2 buttons to look up. Well, 1 button to look up and 1 button to look down. But it requires 2 buttons. And I did that, so that allows me to look down into the kind of in the little cockpit area. So if that's what you have to do, then that in my opinion is the best way to do it. Set up a button to look down. Otherwise, just hit your F8 and look at it there, and it'll tell you.
Yeah, and that's actually what I ended up setting up, because it's something that I hadn't even thought of. And Chad mentioned it last night when we were talking during the practice and stuff, that's the way he set it up. And that was actually, not only was it smart, but the way that he had it set up, because we both have the same wheel, the DFGT. And when I do the road courses, the open wheel race cars, I set the paddles on the back for my shifting as opposed to my shifter. I could do it that way, but I don't know if it's a mental thing, but that's the way they do it, so that's the way I want to do it. I don't know. And you're also shifting a lot more, so you don't want to take your hands off the wheel while you're going through a corner. But he actually assigned the gear shifter as the up, look down. So right now, and I did the same thing. So when I'm need to look down, and I'm not going to be doing it a lot, and it's going to be on the straight stretches, so I'll have time to look at it. I just want to make sure I'm in the right setting. I can just kind of lean into my gear shifter to look down, and you'll see it on the stream tomorrow night for me looking down there, so I can see where that setting is. Because I'd like to keep, unless I'm checking my fuel, my black box stays on my relative time at all times. So I don't want to be messing with that as much. I'd rather just a quick glance down, like I would say, I don't know, if I was actually in the car.
Yeah.
To see where the setting is. So. And I think that's about it. I mean, that's a couple little quick tidbits that Andy sent our way that again helped me out a lot. I mean, like I didn't even know engine mapping was a thing.
Yeah,
uh,
they even have it in cup cars. It's just different.
really?
They, yeah,
Wow, that's
they do it in the garage. Like it's a preset thing, not a you can change it on the fly thing. Because like I know that one of the reasons why Clint Boyer has always made it on fuel is because his engine mapping is set to always save the most fuel, whereas the JGR cars are basically all out power.
hmm,
So they never make it on fuel as a result. It's just a different type of engine mapping, but it's pretty much the same thing.
makes sense.
Uh, yeah, so it's different because the Indy car you can change it on the fly. But yeah, I didn't. I mean, I still didn't really know about it though, quote unquote. Being within the IndyCar and I definitely didn't know what weight jacker stuff was. So Andy's email and I read that a good couple of times and then the thing that I learn better when I watch things or see things in action. So after reading that email and then getting on Wednesday night, that was one of the first things I did was play with those adjustments, not necessarily to see how they changed the car, but just to play with the adjustments so I could kind of get a feel for what he was saying.
Hmm.
And it's good, definitely good knowledge. The one thing that I'm glad about him being my engineer, supposedly anyways, I mean unless something crazy happens tomorrow, is that he's gonna be able to help remind me to not do things like leaving myself in setting 8 on a restart or when I'm accidentally running something else, then I need to be in a different setting. So it's going to be nice to kind of have him there to remind me, because one of the things that uh, I've always enjoyed about NASCAR things, like when they need to turn a fan on or turn a fan off or change something, their team says, remember your fans, or remember this, or remember that, and that's kind of like the cue of, hey, you need to change this. And so that'll be kind of a fun little perk for tomorrow, is to have Andy jump on the radio and say, hey, make sure you go to setting 3 or 4, and then I'll just be like, okay, click, and that'll be kind of one of those fun little things to experience.
Yeah, I agree, and that's like you said, especially having somebody in your ear giving you that little bit, those little tidbits of information. I mean, I know we talked about it when you spotted for me when I was doing that race at Michigan, I think it was.
Yep.
And just having you giving me those little pieces of information like that helps so much. And
Mhm.
in this sort of a race where you're going to have somebody kind of giving you just little bits. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but it makes a big difference when it comes to your comfort level and freeing up your brain to think about other things.
Yep. Exactly.
So
Like driving
exactly. See
230 miles an hour.
now, and the weird thing is, I mean, like for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the weight jacker to where I'm comfortable at in in. Oh, and that's the other thing too to mention with the weight jacker as well is that you might want to adjust it based on where you are in traffic. So, for example, if you have a car right up behind you, and basically is taking the air off your back wing, so you don't have as much rear grip, then you might want to lower it down a little bit if you have a guy who's following you really closely for a little while to kind of give you that more grip on the rear. Or if you're doing the same thing to somebody else, you're right behind somebody, you're not going to have as much air on your front, so you might want to run a higher number in order to kind of bring the grip back to the front of the car, kind of thing. So it's something you're going to be adjusting a lot, and that's where I think I'm going to fall down. I mean, like I want to set it to a level where I'm comfortable, and then maybe adjust it because of the fuel run type thing. Like I know there are people who take IndyCar racing, in the sim quite seriously. Like it's one of those crowds that is very enthusiastic, very intense about their racing. And there are people out there who are like just adjusting the weight jacker constantly throughout the race, like based on conditions and stuff. Like it's all right, for this turn I need to set it here. For this turn I need to set it here. For that, man, I don't have the amount of brain space to do that and keep the car on the track. But there are people who do that and succeed more strongly. Like I bet you the people who were at the top of those charts, those names we mentioned earlier, I bet you a lot of them do that sort of thing.
Yep.
I'm just going to not do that. I'm going to keep it at a comfortable level.
I'm a
Maybe
rookie.
adjust, you're a rookie. So, and I guess the last thing I'll mention on that is the fact that you need to set those on somewheres on your wheel or a button box if you have one, or if your keyboard's handy while you're driving, something you can hit quickly and easily. Like I said, I'm lucky that I have the DFGT and the reason why I like this wheel is because it has so many bloody buttons on it. That makes it easy to find places, but you actually have to go over to I believe it's because you have your basic controls, and then there's like another tab over there that's just called controls, I think it is, in your
Yes,
settings
far
within
right.
the sim.
All the
And
way to the right.
that's where the extra stuff is, and that's where you're going to find these settings. I'll also mention that before you start making the changes to the controls and everything for the IndyCar, assuming that you're not an IndyCar regular, and assuming that you race other cars, or you're like Chad and myself, and you do a lot more stock car racing than this style of racing, there's a box in the lower left-hand corner on the first page when you go into settings that says use custom controls for this car. You're going to want to check that because you're probably going to set up the IndyCar buttons a lot differently. At least I did. A lot differently than you do with your other cars, because there's going to be places that normally this does this, but for this car, I wanted to do something completely different. Or, for example, like I said, I use the paddle shifters as opposed to the gear shifter when I'm racing that style of car. So if you hit use custom controls, it's not going to mess up your regular settings on the other cars. So you're going to want to do that as well. So,
Good
but
point.
I think that's about it. I mean, like I said, we are by no means experts.
Nope. Definitely not me.
But I figured that because I found that information that Andy gave us so useful, I thought it might be helpful to you guys out there who might be saying, hey, you know what, it's Indy 500. I don't race the IndyCar at all, such as Chad, but I'm excited about this. Let's do this. Here's a couple little things you probably didn't know about, because I know we didn't. So,
Yep.
so hopefully it'll help you have a better experience with the Indy 500 if you're going the route that we're going, and doing that as a one-off kind of deal. So that's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it was.
But
You did a good job, though.
well, thank you, sir. I don't race good, but I talks good.
You talks good.
Yes, sir. So I will say that that will about do it for this week. A big thanks to all of you out there for listening. Remember, the show is available for download on iTunes and Zune under the podcast section, where we would really appreciate you giving us a review and helping us get the word out, putting comments on the YouTube page, that sort of thing. The show is also available, as I mentioned, on YouTube, on my YouTube channel and Chad's YouTube channel. Ratface Productions for myself and White Knight Productions for Chad. So you can watch it there under archive, or watch it live, as some people like to do. So you can do that. You can check out the website for information, archives, links, and the polls we mentioned on the show at iRacingTodayRadio.com. And you have one more week, basically, to vote in this week's poll, as Chad talked about earlier, so make sure you go do that. You can follow show news through Facebook at facebook.com/iRacingTodayRadio, and Twitter at twitter.com/iRacingToday for myself, /It's Chadillac for Chad, and /what for the team?
IRT Motorsports.
All right, so make sure you follow them as well now that Chad's been a little bit active, and plus that'll be the place to, hopefully, if everything works out well, to follow updates throughout the 4 hours or whatever it is we're going to be out there racing tomorrow night. So if you kind of want to know what's going on with us, that'd be a good place to check it out if you're not somewhere where you can be watching the stream, or you want to watch one stream and get updates on the other driver, however you want to do things. So make sure you follow that as well.
Now, going back to show-related stuff, please email any questions, comments, and poll suggestions that you may have to feedback. I about said Facebook at iRacing Today Radio, but
it was
not
you
a valid email address.
A couple weeks ago about messing up that whole line and stuff. And,
yeah, not a valid address, but I stopped myself. But email those to feedback at iRacingTodayRadio.com. And then, of course, feel free to add myself and Trevor as friends on the iRacing.com members website, as several of you have obviously have. And we had that fun little competition a few weeks ago about that. But until next week, ladies and gentlemen, and one of us could even be drinking a glass of milk after tomorrow, remember, the race is rarely won in the first turn.
But it is often lost there. Good night, everyone. Back home again in Indiana.